This exercise builds core strength faster than planks, 4 times more likely to lose your physical independence in the next decade. That is what a study from the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity found when analyzing adults over 50 years old with weakened core muscles. And the worst part is that when someone decides to take action and looks for ways to strengthen this area, the answer that always comes up is do planks. But nobody warns you that planks require a level of strength that most people simply have not developed yet, resulting in painful wrists, overloaded shoulders, and, in practice, abandonment of training within the first few weeks. That is why today you will learn how to strengthen your core at home without relying on planks. This way, it is possible to develop this so important and neglected muscle group without pain and without suffering, training consistently and reaping the results. You obviously do not need to do all of them, so pay attention until the end, look at each one, and choose the ones that best adapt to your body and your current routine. Before we get started, please leave a comment with your name and the city you are watching from. We would love to know. Exercise number 1, dead bug. If there is one exercise capable of teaching your body to create real abdominal tension with absolutely no impact on the lower back, that exercise is the dead bug. The name might sound strange the first time you hear it, but the execution tells a completely different story. It trains your core's ability to remain stable while the arms and legs move, which is exactly what happens in practically any activity of your daily life, from carrying grocery bags to simply rolling over in bed. Research in the field of spinal biomechanics, including work by the renowned Canadian specialist Stuart McGill, indicates that stabilization exercises like this one activate the deep abdominal muscles without overloading the spinal discs, making it a particularly safe choice for those who experience lower back discomfort during traditional exercises. The dead bug primarily recruits the transverse abdominis, the rectus abdominis, and the obliques, while also requiring the hip flexors to participate as secondary stabilizers. To perform it correctly, lie on your back on the floor, raise your arms toward the ceiling, and bend your hips and knees to form a 90-degree angle as if you were sitting in the air. Press your lower back against the floor and maintain that pressure throughout the entire movement. From this position, slowly extend your right arm behind your head while straightening your left leg toward the floor, without letting it touch the ground, and then return to the starting position to repeat on the opposite side. An extra tip that makes all the difference is to imagine a cup of water balanced on your navel. If the lower back arches and loses contact with the floor, that imaginary cup would fall. This image helps maintain proper control and core activation throughout the entire set. A common mistake is allowing the lower back to lift off the floor as the leg extends, which removes the tension from the abdomen and transfers the load to the spine. Another frequent slip is moving the arms and legs too quickly, losing control of breathing and stability. Breathe steadily, exhaling as you extend the limbs. For those just starting out, 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions on each side already deliver consistent results. More advanced practitioners can increase to 12 to 15 repetitions per side, always prioritizing movement quality over speed. This exercise tends to be well tolerated even by people with a history of mild lower back pain. But if you feel acute spinal pain, dizziness when lying down, or have a herniated disc in an acute phase, it is best to seek medical guidance before including it in your routine. If the coordination between the opposite arm and leg still feels difficult at first, an alternative is to perform only the leg movement first, keeping both arms still at your sides, and only add the arm movement later when you feel more confident in lower back stability. Exercise number 2, mountain climbers. Few exercises can combine core strengthening with such intense cardiovascular stimulus as mountain climbers. It requires you to keep your trunk stabilized while your knees drive toward your chest at high speed, creating a powerful combination of muscular endurance and physical conditioning, all without moving from your spot. This movement intensely recruits the rectus abdominis and the obliques, which work continuously to prevent the hips from swaying side to side, while also demanding significant participation from the shoulders, chest, and hip flexors, which generate the speed needed for the leg movement. To perform it correctly, get into a high plank position, with your hands placed directly below your shoulders and your body forming a straight line from your head to your heels. From this position, drive one knee toward your chest and quickly return to the starting position, alternating legs at a steady pace as if you were running in place while keeping your trunk practically still. The tip that makes the biggest difference here is to keep your hips low throughout the entire movement. When they rise, the exercise loses much of its demand on the core and becomes nothing more than leg running without the benefit of abdominal stabilization. A common mistake is letting the hips rise and fall like a roller coaster, which takes away from the point of the exercise's name, since it should imitate climbing, not the peaks and valleys of an entire mountain range. Another frequent slip is holding your breath during the faster repetitions, which unnecessarily increases intra-abdominal pressure and tires you out much faster than it should. For beginners, the recommendation is to start with 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds of execution at a controlled pace. As your endurance increases, you can progress to 40 to 60 seconds per set, always respecting your body's signals. This exercise is not recommended for those with recent wrist or shoulder injuries, as it requires considerable weight bearing on those joints. People with uncontrolled blood pressure should also be cautious with the accelerated pace, opting for a slower and more controlled version until receiving medical clearance. For those who feel wrist discomfort when placing their hands directly on the floor, a simple alternative is to rest on your forearms instead of your hands, reducing the pressure on that joint without losing the stimulus on the core. Exercise number 3, glute bridge. The glute bridge is usually remembered only as a glute exercise, and it is true that it is excellent for that. But the role of the core here is frequently underestimated. Throughout the entire movement, the abdomen and the spinal erectors work together to keep the pelvis stable, preventing the lower back from hyperextending as the hips rise. Regular practitioners can notice a perceptible improvement in lumbopelvic stability after a few weeks of consistent practice, which translates into less discomfort when standing for long periods and more strength in daily activities such as climbing stairs. This exercise primarily works the gluteus maximus, but also recruits the hamstrings, the spinal erectors, and the deep abdominal muscles, which act as stabilizers throughout the full range of motion. To perform it, lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor, hip-width apart. Keeping your arms relaxed at your sides, lift your hips until they form a straight line between your shoulders and your knees, squeezing your glutes firmly at the top of the movement, and then lower back down in a controlled manner. A valuable tip is to think about pushing the floor away with your heels, rather than simply lifting your hips. This small shift in intention considerably increases the recruitment of the gluteus maximus during the exercise. A common mistake is raising the hips primarily using lower back strength, excessively arching the spine at the top of the movement. This shifts the work from the glutes to the lower back and can generate discomfort over time. Another frequent error is not completing the hip extension, performing a partial movement that reduces muscular activation. To get started, 3 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions are usually sufficient. As your technique improves, you can progress to 3 to 4 sets of 18 to 20 repetitions, or increase the isometric hold time at the top of the movement. People with acute hip or lower back injuries should perform this exercise only with professional clearance, as should pregnant women in their 3rd trimester, who should adapt the range of motion according to medical guidance. If you feel discomfort in the neck area during the movement, an alternative is to place a folded towel under the back of your head, which reduces tension in that area without interfering with glute and core activation. Exercise number 4, standing knee raise. Unlike most core exercises that we do lying on the floor, the standing knee raise challenges your body to maintain abdominal stability while you are upright and in motion, which much more closely resembles the way we actually use our core in real life, whether walking, climbing a step, or simply carrying groceries. This movement activates the rectus abdominis in its lower portion, the obliques, and the hip flexors, while also demanding significant proprioception and balance. Since you are supported on only one leg for most of the execution, to perform it, stand upright with your spine tall and your feet hip-width apart. Raise one knee toward your chest, keeping your trunk stable and without leaning back, and then return your foot to the floor with control before repeating on the other side. You can alternate legs with each repetition or complete an entire set on one side before switching. An extra tip is to move your arms along with the movement, as if you were marching. This helps maintain rhythm and adds a light coordination component to the exercise, making it more engaging as your technique develops. A common mistake is leaning the trunk backward when raising the knee, which removes the tension from the abdomen and transfers the effort to the lower back. Another slip is raising the knee too quickly, losing balance and the quality of the abdominal contraction in the process. If you notice that you are swaying too much from side to side, it is a sign that you need to slow down the pace. For beginners, 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions on each side work well. Over time, you can increase to 15 to 20 repetitions per side, or add a small pause at the top of the movement to intensify the stabilization work. People with serious balance problems, frequent dizziness, or recent hip injuries should be extra cautious with this exercise and may perform it next to a wall or chair for additional support until they gain more confidence. A good alternative for those who do not yet feel steady on their feet is to perform this same movement while seated in a firm chair, raising the knees alternately while keeping the spine tall, which reduces the balance requirement without eliminating the core work. Exercise number 5, bicycle crunch. The bicycle crunch is one of those exercises that practically everyone has tried at some point, usually too fast and without much control, which ends up reducing much of its potential. When performed with attention to technique, however, it becomes one of the most efficient ways to work the rectus abdominis and the obliques at the same time. This movement strongly recruits the rectus abdominis, especially its upper and lower portions, as well as the internal and external obliques, which are responsible for trunk rotation during the exercise. The hip flexors also participate, mainly during the phase in which the leg extends. To perform it, lie on your back, place your hands behind your head without interlocking your fingers tightly, and raise your legs to form a 90-degree angle at the knees. Bring your right elbow toward your left knee while extending your right leg, and then alternate to the opposite side in a continuous movement that resembles pedaling a bicycle. The most important tip here is to avoid pulling your neck with your hands. They should only provide light support for your head, while the rotational movement comes from the abdomen, not the arms. A common mistake is performing the movement too quickly, trying to compensate for a lack of abdominal strength with speed, which drastically reduces real muscular activation. Another frequent error is not completing the trunk rotation, making only a light touch of the elbow near the knee without truly rotating. For beginners, 2 to 3 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions on each side already deliver good results. More experienced practitioners can progress to 20 repetitions per side, always prioritizing control over speed. This exercise is not recommended for those with significant neck pain, since the position of the hands behind the head can overload that area if proper technique is not respected. Pregnant women and people with abdominal diastasis should also avoid this movement without specific professional guidance. If neck pain is a recurring problem for you, an alternative is to cross your arms over your chest instead of placing your hands behind your head, reducing the temptation to pull your neck during the movement. Exercise number 6, bird dog. The bird dog is frequently cited by spinal health specialists as one of the safest and most effective exercises for developing core stability, being part of a protocol known as the Big 3 lumbar stabilization exercises, popularized by Canadian researcher Stuart McGill over his decades of study on spinal biomechanics. This movement trains the core as a whole, including the transverse abdominis, the obliques, and the spinal erectors, while also requiring the glutes and shoulders to participate as stabilizers during the extension of the limbs. To perform it, get on all fours with your hands aligned below your shoulders and your knees aligned below your hips. Extend your right arm forward at the same time you extend your left leg behind you, keeping your spine neutral and your hips level, without letting them rotate to one side. Hold the position for a moment and then return to the starting position to repeat on the opposite side. An extra tip is to imagine a cup of coffee balanced on your lower back. If your hips sway from side to side during the movement, that imaginary cup would fall, which helps a great deal in maintaining proper stability. A common mistake is letting the hips rotate when extending the leg, losing alignment and reducing the demand on the core. Another frequent slip is raising the arm or leg too high, which usually forces compensation in the lower back instead of maintaining controlled extension. For beginners, 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions on each side, holding the position for 2 to 3 seconds already deliver good results. Over time, you can increase the hold time to 5 to 6 seconds per repetition, which considerably intensifies the stabilization challenge. People with recent wrist or knee injuries should be extra cautious and may rest their forearms on the floor as an alternative until the condition improves, always with appropriate professional clearance. Another interesting option for those who want to simplify the movement at first is to work only with the leg extension, keeping both arms on the floor and only then add the opposite arm extension as stability increases. Exercise number 7, supine marching. Closing our list with a simple but extremely valuable exercise, especially for those who are just starting out or returning to training after a period of inactivity. Supine marching is an excellent entry point for those who feel that the previous exercises are still a little too challenging. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everyone starts somewhere. This movement primarily activates the lower portion of the rectus abdominis and the hip flexors, requiring you to keep your lower back pressed against the floor throughout the entire execution in a way similar to the dead bug, but with a much lower coordination demand. To perform it, lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. Lift one foot a few inches off the floor as if you were marching in place, keeping the knee bent, and then return your foot to the floor before repeating on the other side, always keeping the lower back stable and without letting it arch. The tip that makes the biggest difference here is to go slowly. Because the movement looks simple, many people speed up too much and completely lose control of the lower back, turning a safe exercise into something that can cause unnecessary discomfort. A common mistake is letting the lower back arch as the foot lifts, which indicates that the abdominal muscles have lost control of the movement. If this happens, reduce the height of the lift until you can keep the lower back stable throughout the entire set. For beginners, 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions on each side are a great starting point. As strength and control improve, you can progress to 15 to 18 repetitions per side or slightly increase the controlled marching pace. This is one of the safest exercises on our list, but even so, people with acute lower back pain or a herniated disc in an inflammatory phase should seek professional guidance before including it in their routine, starting with very reduced ranges of motion if cleared to practice it. If even this version feels challenging at first, an alternative is to reduce the foot lift even further, raising it only a couple of inches off the floor, focusing all attention on keeping the lower back completely stable before increasing the range of motion. If you enjoyed this and also want to see some isometric exercises capable of turning ordinary people into strength machines at the level of the best military soldiers, we have a video appearing on the screen right now showing each one of them in more detail. I do not see anyone else talking about this, so make sure you check it out. Thank you for watching all the way through, and may God bless you, my friend.